Hi there, my name is Byrum Leo. This is a walkthrough of my master's thesis project at Carnegie Mellon University School of Drama within the Video and Media Design department. Over the past year with the pandemic, a lot of productions have been pivoting to online performances and distributing their work in online platforms. I've done a lot of those productions myself, and I've been developing sort of workflows and different tool chains to help support those productions. And in doing so, I've decided that my master's thesis project would focus on that media design for the digital theater, as the title implies, and think about sort of where else can we go with this, exploring sort of new avenues for what digital theater can be, and working with the live volumetric uh, capture as well as a term I've devised called real-time network performance to describe the sort of workflow and methodology at play. So I'll just jump straight in. And this is the sort of UI viewport I developed to sort of take a look at everything that's possible and what I believe is a potential to explore with using these processes. So as you'll see, there is I'm using Azure Connect, and that is being brought in as a static image and creating a volumetric model off of that placed inside a 3D environment. This 3D environment can be controlled and manipulated using a number of techniques, but I'm using an Xbox controller for a little bit more of an expressive control and a sort of dynamic viewing experience. As you can see, there's a wireframe model aligning to that camera view, and as you'll see on the ground, there's lighting reacting with the model. Currently, I do not have a PBR process set up, given the high cost of the rendering, but that is definitely something I'm going to explore in the future. So I just want to push forward a little bit more with this and show the live aspect of this. So I just switch to the live view of the Azure Connect and rendering a point cloud. And this is now all in real time. And I think that this is really sort of where we're going to get the most benefit in finding a performer's presence and sort of essence in a digital world. So these elements, these scenic elements, environmental elements can all be trolled dynamically. I have a MIDI pad set up here over to my side. And so I can control lighting and effects and effects. Oh, hit the wrong button. There we go. And so with this sort of allows us to have the sort of traditional theatrical conventions of lighting, scenography, etc., but all placed inside a digital world. Um, so I'm turning that off. Switch my lights. Um, More scenography is bringing in sort of 3D models and 3D elements, being able to dynamically change their positions and scales in relation to the model, and being able to transform them into other models. These are free assets I've gotten off of Sketchfab, popular 3D marketplace. Um, so as you can see, this can really lend itself to a lot of creative considerations from all members of a theatrical production. Now, the main thing with this, and the main thing I believe we've lost in sort of Zoom productions or digital online theater, is that we've lost the ability to place people in space with one another. And there's been some clever tricks to achieve this. A lot of green screen compositing, um, things like that. Passing prompts through the frame, as it were, to one another to sort of break the limitations of those gridded rectangles. Um, with volumetric, I believe it's really important to get that sense of space and depth and presence from a performer, and being able to sort of bridge that gap, albeit remotely or even locally, as we become uh, more vaccinated and find ourselves on the other side of the pandemic. I believe this will still have uses for digital theater to continue in the future. So with that said, I will just bring up the lights again. And this is a process I developed of remotely transmitting a rendered point cloud or rendered 3D model from another computer and streaming it using streaming platform technology, Zoom, OBS Ninja, and bringing in those composites to essentially fake that they're inside the real world, inside the digital world that has been created. So this sphere is rendered on another computer, is being streamed in composite, as you can see the green screen on the left, as well as the shadow map. And what this allows us to do is sort of fake parallax by mirroring the 3D process, the camera process, the lighting processes onto another computer. So the same lights, the same position, the same camera are all translated and updated dynamically onto the other laptop. And this is transmitted through an internet connection. So you'll notice a little bit of lag here, but you'll also notice that there is sort of the semblance of a shadow, semblance of existing in the same space that my 3D point cloud is. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the computer power to render a 3D model, a 3D point cloud model on another computer, but this would be the same process that would be allowed in that. So now what I can do is I will show you the sort of aggregate view of all of this. So as I adjust my camera, and this is the composite that is coming into this machine to build the 3D world, and you'll notice the lag is a little bit jittery. It's actually kind of fun to see people bounce around and objects bounce in and out of space. Again, there will be an issue and limitation of occlusion with this and being able to apply that sense of depth in space very immersively with a 3D camera, given that this is now a 2D element. Um, but I think this is a step in the right direction of being able to remotely bring in digital and 3D performers from around the world. You'll also see that there is, let me step into my camera a little bit more. You'll also see that there is a MIDI controller, and that is being fed into that separate computer and is feeding back to the host computer that I'm doing the point cloud transformations in, and updates dynamically as I make changes to the scene. Wonderful. We got some spinning lights. Great. So let me kill these lights. You'll see it updates on the 3D model as well. And let's go into a look under the hood, as it were, inside of TouchDesigner. So I'm using TouchDesigner as my entire workflow for this process. I've been working with TouchDesigner for almost 2 years now, and I've really grown to love it. I think it's a really amazing program to develop in, and especially for theater, it becomes a great asset to build video and media tools out of it. So I'm just going to walk through this just a bit. As you'll see, give me 1 second. And really get into the meat of what's happening here. So this is the live Connect being brought in. I have a switch to turn on the, excuse me, I have a switch to turn on the stock model, which is just a still frame taken from the Connect with both the UV feed and the RGB feed. And that is being instanced by a geometry component that is being fed into the 3D scene and the render, which is all the way down over here. The material applied here is a line mat that I can change the points and depth to. So I can make myself a little bit more bulky or squarish. Um, Let me turn this down. There we go. Again, as I mentioned, I don't have a PBR workflow in place, given that it is very hard to render, but that is definitely something that I see as next steps in building of uh, being able to cast shadows and lights onto that 3D point cloud and treat it as if it were a mesh. And then up here, we have all of the camera transformations. This is an Xbox controller as a joystick in chop, and being mapped out and sort of calibrated to my specifications in order to create a sort of create this dynamic camera look. Pulling out a bit more, we have our lights up here. These are the initial lights, and these are all being referenced from save states up here. As a sort of, as you get more into theatrical processes, you probably want a lot more lighting and dynamic lighting, so that you could really go to town with these sort of save states and lighting. That optimization, that would need to be optimized, because there are limits of how many processes you could do. But this is all controlled dynamically from the MIDI controller, which then pushes all that information to a touch out shop. And the touch out normally is on a local network. I'm using a program called Zero Tier, which creates a VPN connection and can allow for touch out or even OSC processes to happen remotely between computers. So I have another instance of TouchDesigner using a touch in and Zero Tier to make that connection, which has been a really wonderful process to create this with. I'll show you what else is down here. This is, oh, this is our stock model. This is our stock video model of me dancing in my apartment. And it is undergoing a similar process as the static model you see above. And let me just turn on that model. And this allows you to see what it would be like for two people to exist in volumetric space at the same time. And again, I have control over the point size of those instance points. And below here is our geometry. The green screen that popped up earlier is a OBJ file held within a FBX component. And the little grass and house room are both point clouds in themselves. And so I have some parameters and operators set up here so I can switch and transform between the two. And I just have a switch between the two to transmute or translate their 3D data and points. And that is how they're able to sort of merge into one another. Over here is our environment geometry. So this is a skybox as well as the floor grid that my models are currently standing on. And over here is where the composites are coming in. So I have these coming in as an NDI top. This process over the internet would come in as a single NDI using OBS Ninja and using an NDI plugin for OBS Studio. And that would just come out and be cropped and then composited back together into the final scene. Given that their 3D information, the cameras, lights, etc., are all mapped together, they are kind of perfectly aligned. So you really just need to play with the opacity and sort of the compositing techniques built through that. And that is a big overview of the process. Here, let me show this. Just get a little bit of a close-up. Again, activate the live camera. So yeah, you could find more of my work at seanbyrumleo.com. And I hope you enjoy this video and thank you for watching.